Taraka. Welcome to Scouted by GreyB. First and foremost, I'd like to know about what PeelON is and basically what you guys are doing and what kind of innovations in packaging industry you guys are working on.
Absolutely. Yeah. Thanks again for inviting me to this. So PeelON is a basically 100% biodegradable packaging that extends the shelf life of the produce up to 3 times. So we are trying to address food waste problem, and also at the same time the plastic problem, which is very commonly used in the fresh produce packaging industry. So that's we are trying to solve both the problems with a single solution, one fit for all in one solution. And we majorly work with exporters, distributors, food aggregators who has majorly the fresh produce spoilage, and also the whom they wanted to switch from plastic packaging to biodegradable packaging. So that's combined. So this is something which we are trying to give is just not the reducing the spoilage problem, but also they could potentially replace their plastic usage completely with our biodegradable and home compostable packaging.
Okay. When I heard about PeelON and then I figured out what you guys are doing is essentially what industry is already doing. They're wrapping things, wrapping fresh produce into some kind of plastic, but we've taken a different route. Instead of using plastic, not only we are able to remove plastic, but we're able to increase the shelf life of produce. So
Absolutely.
that is something that I found very interesting. So, I mean, how is PeelON doing that?
Sure. One is we use completely 100% plant-based additives. So that's actually what is the secret sauce behind this increased shelf life. So the plant-based additives, what we use is integrated into the packaging itself, so that it is slowly released when it's packed in the produce. So it acts on the stomata and then the outer layer of the fresh produce. So in a very simple terms, we are trying to control its aging process. So by reducing the moisture release. Second is the ethylene. So ethylene is a very common problem, like which ages the fruits, right? So ripening extra, the fast ripening process. So that is something which you're trying to reduce. The first I mentioned, like the moisture problem. So excess moisture is always released out when it is out of the plant. So that is something which you're trying to reduce. And three is the antimicrobial properties. So fungal growths, bacterial growths, it's very common. So this is also something which we are trying to reduce in the packaging itself. So the people who are going to use our packaging solution, they don't need to add extra additional auxiliary packagings like moisture absorbers or antifungal sprays. So these are all the extra things that could be completely avoided with our single packaging solution.
Oh, that's very interesting. And now, actually, my follow-up question was about bacterial growth and basically overall health of the packaging, but you've already answered it. So, ideally, what I used to think when because I've seen a lot of innovation in packaging industry specifically regarding and on the same lines, then using plant-based materials to pack or maybe using removing plastic and using paper instead. So, if I have to compare this with paper-based packaging, and then there are of course PLAs which are also transparent and their boxes they're also fully biodegradable. So how does this compare to them? And of course, there's one aspect that you are able to preserve the shelf life and even increase it by 3x. So overall, like what's the biggest difference between PeelON and other traditional similar packaging materials?
Sure. So we are basically an additive rather than like the polymer itself. So we do use a base polymer. So the base polymer which we're using is a home compostable polymer. It's a similar to PLA, but it's not a PLA. So the PLA is industry compostable. So that's one of the reasons we did not pick the PLA. The one polymer which we picked, a biopolymer, is a home compostable, meaning you can dump into regular landfills or anything. It decomposes within 2 to 3 months. So that's like the biopolymer what we use, and we are biopolymer agnostic. So we can really integrate into multiple. So let's say a new biopolymer comes into market, which is affordable and which has a better biodegradable properties. So we'll be able to integrate our plant-based additives into that biopolymer, and then we can switch also easily. So our core technology lies in the how we increase the shelf life, and at the same time also like how we can modify the biopolymer as well. So that's something which we are trying to provide in both, and we are agnostic to biopolymers. So again, like this something which a new biopolymer comes into market, we can always switch.
Thank you, Taraka. So, and of course, I think this will be a question from any food manufacturer who's currently using the alternatives of plastic wraps or paper-based packaging or those PLA-based boxes. So, how easy it is for PeelON to get integrated into the value chain of any food supplier, or basically in the chain of these supermarkets, probably. So, like, what is your market strategy, or integration strategy with these kind of brands?
So we are able to it's very similar to plastics. So wherever there is a plastic, so you can clearly switch into our packaging solution. So currently we are providing in the form of crate liners, which is bulk 20 kgs 30 kgs liners, or it could be as small as 2 kgs or 5 kgs vegetables or fruits. So and it could be also you can label and print on the packaging as well. So that's something which we can serve from like growers, packers to retail shelves. So we can really serve to multiple people in the fresh produce supply chain. So that's something which we are be able to like give, because again like this simply as simple as I mentioned, it's as simple as like replacing the current plastic packaging.
Okay. So, I mean, that's very interesting since, as you mentioned, that what you're selling is already the final product built
Sure.
out of this. It's not
Yep.
something that they need to integrate into the
No.
value chain or anywhere, right? So that's
It's
very
just the truth.
interesting.
They have to believe the truth that it works. So that's
Yeah.
that's that's a big challenge. What we have is like it's always like they think that it's too good to be true. Like that's something which they have to see by their own eyes that okay, it's working for us. One good example is the removing the ice. So in one of our clients, they use a lot of ice to transport the vegetables, including lettuce, broccoli, like coriander, or any leafy greens. They put a lot of ice in the exports to make sure it's fresh and
Stay
like
fresh. Yeah.
yeah. So we are completely removing the ice, so you don't have to use the ice completely, and then you can use simple packaging. So that's something is very unusual for the clients. So they are like, oh, without ice, it's like it's weird, but like the once they test it, it's like, oh, yeah, it's fresh. So it's solving multiple problems for them, and then it's reducing economically. It's also reducing a lot of costs, and we are able to save tons of water there. So that's for every box they use approximately 10 kilos to transport 5 to 10 kilos of broccoli or coriander to transport for every box. So you can imagine like 10 kilos of ice in every box. That's huge. So
It's
yeah,
also
they're
saving
able to
water.
replace.
So, because that ice water would have anyway gotten wasted.
Yeah, exactly. So we are able to save that water. We are able to save the energy costs. So we are able to give them economical benefits by reducing the weight of it, so that they can export more in the same load. So it's an impact and profit can go hand in hand with our packaging solution.
Oh, that's great. So, again, my next question, and I'm very curious about knowing a lot more about PeelON, especially because I've talked to a lot of packaging-based startups and a lot of CEOs who are doing something very interesting and very unique in this space. Even recently, I talked to one startup that is based out in Norway. What they're doing is basically they're using seaweed to create similar semi-transparent, slightly translucent packaging for food products. And their USP is, of course, it's based on seaweed, it's home compostable, and basically you eliminate the entire recycling myth
Sure.
out of the plastic thing, right? And which I see is also kind of a fit motto for PeelON as well. So, and as you mentioned, of course, this is too good to be true, and the same thing goes with all of the other, a lot of startups, that they are doing something so revolutionary that it's very difficult to believe for existing brands, that how, like, if it was so easy to replace it, then why there wasn't any kind of alternative up until now, right? So what's the, is there a trade-off between adopting PeelON for these brands? I mean, of course, for so far, it's obviously there's lots of benefits. It looks the same. It actually improves your product. It saves you from the waste. if it saves you from food waste, it saves you from the all the water usage and transportation costs that you will otherwise spend. So what's the trade-off basically? Is there any trade-off?
Not exactly. It's just mainly the price point. So even if you give them like a multiple solution, multiple solution, single solution for the multiple problems what they are facing, yet they see it's still like a plastic packaging. So they are looking for the same price as plastic packaging. So that's something which is a challenge for us. But at the same time, there is no as such a trade-off because they're able to say I mean, that was the idea also for us, for them to adopt to sustainable packaging, is to give them extra something,
Hmm.
so a benefit, rather than a simple. So if you go, I mean, just an example. So where you are packing some set of tons of fruits and like selling it abroad, to Russia, China, or somewhere else, right? And then like with your plastic packaging, you have some spoilage which is 5%. Why would you switch from plastic to like bioplastics or biodegradable plastics? Because like the pricing is 10 times higher
Hmm.
compared to the plastics. So there is this 10 times higher price. So you lose 10 times less profits, including
Yeah.
your spoilage, which is 10%. So that is something simple calculation that makes think that, okay, no, I should not switch, even though it is eco-friendly, until unless the government makes a strict ban that you cannot use plastics. So they wouldn't go for it because it's a huge loss, because you're exporting tons, and whoever exports, they export in tons, because that's a huge margins they try to make.
Hmm.
And so that's one of the reasons why you need to give them something extra, which along with the normal biodegradable packaging, so you have to give them extra future
Hmm.
that pushes them, or that motivates them to move to a compostable solution, right? So that's where I say, okay, now I can come to you and say that I'll reduce your 10% spoilage, and you can also advertise yourself that you're switched to sustainable packaging. So now they see that 10% is equal to more than 10% what they pay
Hmm.
for the switching of biodegradable packaging. So this is some convincing that's needed to actually switch. And again, so this is more what we are doing is a flexible packaging. So this is one kind of packaging what we are trying to do. And like this solution will not fit for multiple types as well, for HDPE or for hard plastics. So this
Hmm.
may not be a right solution because the properties are different completely. So we need more and more of a different ways, like
Variety of kind of products,
kind of
right?
packaging, so that can switch completely
Hmm.
the plastics, because plastics, the innovations of plastics has been there for almost 100 years, right?
Hmm.
So that's why we came up with multiple types of plastics: polypropylene, polyethylene, PET, PP, HDPEs, LDPEs, LLDPs. So there are multiple ones, polyphenes. Yeah, so there are multiple ones according to the needs. So we have redesigned the plastics. So
Hmm.
similarly, the we have to redesign our bioplastics, or any other type of plastics what we are developing, which is eco-friendly. So that has to also redesigned according to our needs. So single solution or single type of biopolymer will not fix all the set of problems. So similarly, I said we are currently focused only on the fresh produce packaging, mainly fresh produce. We might move a little bit more into meat packaging and also like flowers. So this is something which we are trying to do because it's a very similar set of problems. The shelf life is a big challenge always, like in flowers or in the meat, or in simple berries. For example, in berries, you need hard plastics like clamshells,
Yeah, so
right? So
that
that's
those are
that
going to
cannot be done
waste.
with our packaging yet. So we are working on that aspect as well. So to completely switch to also for to specialize also for berries, cherries. So this kind of fruits. So
Hmm.
that's like the innovation has to be also customized according to the needs.
Okay. That again, I totally agree with that. Education is a big part of this whole sustainability switch for companies, and it's difficult, yes, because the way the processes are set, their vendor relationships are already set, and it's very difficult for it's not a one person's decision to switch usually. So, do you think this the challenge that you, if I summarize it, the challenge that you're facing is, it's difficult for customers, uh, customers of PeelON to figure out the direct benefits they will get up because of the switch, because they compare it with the, like they compare it on the face value. That okay, this, if this is a poly bag, it should cost this much, because my current packaging costs this much, which I
Yes,
totally agree. This is biggest challenge of the entire plastic alternative
I mean, we,
industry.
we try to work with one of the exporters from India itself. Just to give, I mean, I will not give the name, but it's so they were exporting some bananas from India to, like, India is one of the largest producers of bananas.
Hmm.
So they're trying to export, and they use plastic packaging and everything, which costs ₹5. So that's a cost they are expecting it to have, but we'll not be able to give you like the exact price, because it's more 10 times more cost, even to manufacture it at this point. So that's a big challenge always, like to serve Asian market. So that's also one of the reasons why we are mainly focused on the US market, because of the price sensitivity as well.
So Taraka, like what is, so I'd like to understand the back end process a little. So what causes the price to be like 10x more than traditional packaging, and basically what is PeelOn currently trying to do to reduce that? I'm probably, basically this is going to be the biggest challenge for you to expand, that you need to bring down the price a little. Uh, so I'd like to hear your views. What's going on in that regard.
Sure. Mainly the raw material cost is much higher, so that's already something which we cannot optimize, or something we cannot reduce. So the material, raw material, which comes either from China, mainly from China, they're already in the subsidized format, yet it's still expensive to reduce it. So the other is the cost which we could potentially reduce, which is very minor, which yet on a large scale that could be a big impact is the manufacturing costs. So the current manufacturing units are really optimized for the plastics. Like it's the same machinery, but yet it has to be optimized very well for the bioplastic industry. So that's something which we are trying to reduce with our co-manufacturers to reduce the manufacturing costs and also the transportation costs. So this is something which we are trying to reduce. As the volume increases, we will be able to reduce the potentially the costs of the manufacturing, like the process itself, and additionally like the shipping costs as well.
So raw materials, of course, you mentioned that this is the biggest cost factor, and Pelon is made from food waste itself, if I remember correctly. I mean, am I saying it right? So basically, what is the raw material that goes behind that makes Pelon sustainable as well, and then it also functions, it fulfills the duties of a plastic wrap as well. So
Sure, sure.
basically,
So we use seeds. We don't use the food waste, but we use the seeds as a source. But our, again, like our major cost is not the pelon material itself. So the major cost is the base polymer. So that's like the expensive part. So which we cannot reduce. But the other, like raw material specifically for pelon, it's already like less expensive, and the process itself is we already have optimized it, so that the price is already like we bought down the price so that it's more affordable, because in the markets it's important. It one it provides us, the solution to the problem they are currently facing, and second is the affordability. In the for fresh produce supply chain, these are two important criteria: the product market fit, and then the affordability is two important criteria which we learned from our previous business as well. That yeah, I mean, it's if it is not affordable, it's not worthy. The product is not right. Simple as that.
doesn't fit our budget, or maybe doesn't really fit
Yeah, it's
our
important.
needs.
Yeah, and if you, I mean, even if it's a cutting edge solution, I can give you a cutting edge solution which solves majority of problems. But if it's not affordable, it's not really worth putting into the market.
Right. Okay. So, Taraka, I'm sorry. Actually, I need to confirm this now. From the start, I'm saying Taraka. Am I saying your name right?
So you can call me. Yeah, I'm Taraka Ramji. So you can call me Ramji or Tarak. So whichever works for you.
Okay. Cool. Thank you. So I'll jump back to a question that you mentioned about expansion and trying building new products and basically of hard plastic as well. Have you seen currently, since you're targeting food, the basically produce market? Have you seen or considered how PeelON can be used in some other industry entirely, maybe cosmetic industry or electronic industry. Is that something on the line?
Not really. We didn't work. We are focused mainly on the perishables, like only in the food packaging sector. So
Mm,
this is our current focus. And also, like as I said, like first we wanted to start with the fresh produce, and then like maybe meat, and also flowers. So this is
mm,
something which we will be we are working on these sectors further down the line. So we'll be focused more on the perishables rather than switching into a completely different industry
mm.
until unless we really like innovate something and eureka moment happens.
Yes, I just brought that up because I've seen uh, industries like cosmetics or electronics, the pricing problem goes a little bit down. It's a little bit easier to manage pricing
Hmm.
in those industries. And of course, since PeelOn's USP is keeping the fresh produce fresh for 3x longer, that USP won't work in other industry. But the other aspects of your packaging, like being home compostable, being 100% biodegradable, and you guys maintain the moisture barriers, and so basically those kind of things, maybe in future it like if it aligns with the plans.
Absolutely.
Just
Yeah,
was
yeah, yeah.
curious. Yeah.
I mean, we are not restricting ourselves, but at the same time, we don't want to be defocused with multiple areas of work. So we want to focus on the single market at the moment, and then like diverge over a period of time.
Okay, so I'm almost nearing the end of the interview. I'd like to know the regulatory side of things with PeelOn. So, as you already mentioned, that there are a lot of regulations, and even in Europe and US itself, related to food handling and basically the biodegradability and the usage of some kind of chemicals in packaging. So, basically, how is PeelOn aligned with the regulations, and basically what kind of benefits companies can get if they adopt PeelOn packaging instead of traditional plastic?
Absolutely. There are two types of regulatory aspects here. So one is on the using the bioplastics or biodegradable plastics. So that's one is like how biodegradable it is, and it is whether if it's a home compostable or industrial compostable polymer. So this is one biodegradability aspect. So they usually US has BPI, Europe has TUV Austria, which TUV Austria is more or less like could be used in multiple areas as well. Australia has its own like one more. So there are like multiple like licensing certifications, which you can say that it's a biodegradable completely. The second is the to use it for fresh produce packaging itself. So even for plastics, so you have to use it's food compliances. So that they usually where you do the migration tests to make sure like nothing from the bioplastics or plastics are migrated into your produce or in your food, to simplify. So that's a regulatory compliance is what you have to get it done to make sure like your food is not affected by packing into this
Hmm.
in this packaging solution. We are already in compliances. We have the US FDA, EFSA, and also FSSA, India as well. So we are in compliances with all the like multiple. I bought like in one go. Where I got it done like in all the three compliances done for different regions. So that's something which is already done. And but like we're still working on the biodegradability certification.
Okay. Now that you mentioned about regulation, so Taraka, what is the primary market that currently PeelOn is targeted on geographically?
North and South America. So we
Okay.
are currently focused because of the exports. A lot of exports happens between South America to US and also to Europe. So multiple areas. So that's one of the major reasons why we are targeting US markets, US and like North and South American markets.
To hear. And of course, these markets, when it comes to sustainability, these markets have a bigger say in these, specifically
It's a
USA.
stricter government regulation, so it's one of the things is also they're looking for alternatives. Europe has a strict ban on the plastics, so they're trying to push if they can switch into compostable, and people are looking for solutions. So it's easy to sell when people are looking for them. So that's one of the reasons why we are starting there. So once India also bans more and more plastic packaging into the fresh produce market, we'll be able to penetrate very quickly. But yet, so we're still working on the markets which where there is like the ban is coming up, and there is a strong push from the government side itself.
Yeah, and in countries like Europe and some in some parts of US as well, their option basically they encourage a lot of startups which are targeting sustainability and packaging, that they're encouraged to enter into market and launch their products. I've seen there are some startup leveraging some government public grants and public funds and government grants as well for similar things. Uh, is that all basically how is PeelON performed or think about these kind of things?
We are looking, we are applying for the grants. I mean, so far nothing was successful yet, but still, we are constantly looking for. We started to apply for grants as well. So
Okay.
it's a 2 year old company, so it's not really. The work has been done for 4 years, but the company was registered like two years back. So we're still working on grants. Recently, one of the grants was rejected, but like
Hmm.
still, like we are applying for constantly for different grants, and we have a couple of investors, US based investors, so
Hmm.
who are really like impact investors who are trying to get also for the for us like clients as well,
Hmm.
right? So they really want to make a change or make a difference. So that's something, it's already there in the US markets.
That's good to hear. And of course, good luck for grant applications, because I've seen a lot of success happen for a lot of different startups in these kind of grants. And of course, it takes a few tries sometimes, but the solution that you're offering, it's very strong, and your clarity about the market implementation and basically your focus on the market is also very strong. So these are already very good signs, which basically increases your chances of such kind of grants as well. So good luck for that. So Taraka, with this, like I'm down to my last question, which is something related to IP. So now that you mentioned that, of course, you have your own very unique process and the base material and or the biopolymer that you use, that is also very unique. So I've seen on the website it says patent pending. So basically, what are your views about this patent protecting innovation, and is what kind of other protection is PeelON using, or do you have like multiple patents? So just want to get your views about the IP protection.
Sure. So we do have some non-provisional patents already filed in US, and like also with PCT, where for it could be filed for international different countries as well. So we have already two of them, and then we have two more in process. I mean, again, it's a protection. If you're asking me views about the protection, yes, it's important again to protect like the novel, because if it's a novel process itself, we are not trying to reveal the core ingredients and the core trade secrets, but yet we're still like some of the process which we developed over just only uniquely for the PeelON, so that's been patented.
Yes, you're absolutely right about protecting these kind of. This is a very competitive market that we are entering, and packaging is going to be get very big. So of course, patents make sense, and I've seen a lot of startup use trade secrets for their manufacturing process, or for the feedstock that they use for their products. So thanks for sharing about this with me. So Taraka, I think that is all I wanted to hear, and basically just as a last message for me personally, specifically. So has there been during your journey with PeelON, you mentioned that the work started 4 years ago, but the company officially became a startup basically 2 years ago. During all of this time, have you ever faced or thought maybe, man, this is not going to work out, or maybe this is going to be too difficult, might fail, and kind of those feelings? So, any story you'd like to share with me?
It's always there. It's again like this is something which we keep thinking till we got our validation once the product market fit is done.
Hmm.
So once they see that in the eyes of the customers that it's working and then it's benefiting them, so that's where our validation comes, rather than like we developing something in the lab. So
Hmm.
when we developed in the lab, that may not be that's very interesting. Say that, oh, it increased the shelf life, it's great, like we did something interesting. But we are more energetic or enthusiastic when we see that glow in the eyes of the customers, rather than the glow in our own eyes, because we'll be happy with our innovations anyway. But like
Hmm.
if it solves the problem of the client, so that's where we know that it's going to work. So we have this constant ups and downs always, like because it works for one and it may not work for others. So you have always constantly in that pressure, that like whether okay, it's is it going, are we solving the problem or are we not solving the problem, do we have to customize this problem, customize this solution for specific setup, because every customer comes up with a unique problem. So
Yeah.
they have to, like, okay, I have problem with this, something which you don't even know, you don't even realize. So then you customize your solution to a little bit more.
Mm.
So that's why it's important to understand your customer very well. So I spent a lot of time in Mexico, like in US, to understand really, like, where are the customers' problems. So we are trying to categorize to make sure, like, we provide the right solutions to the set of problems they are currently facing.
So yes, there is always ups and downs, but it's basically it's important for you to approach them methodologically and trying to understand the underlying cause, which is again a great message from your end. Of course, a startup, starting a new company is scary, and it's difficult when you're specifically entering into a new market.